Building out a form will oftentimes require you to make modifications to some of the inputs. And to make modifications to some of the inputs, be it a single line text or maybe a date time control or maybe rich text control within a form, you'll have to leverage something called runtime functions. There's also inline functions, and those will apply to specific controls in themselves. But if you want to make changes to controls and the data that comes out of those controls by value of different controls, then you will use runtime functions. And so let's actually take a look at an example of this. And in this example, what we want to do is we want to take a date time control and the value that gets passed through that date time control, add a number of months to that date time control, and then show that back on the form. And we can also collect that data and write that back to our list if we want to. So how do we do that? Well, I've already gone ahead and I've added a date time control. If I click on it, you'll see that the name of the date time control is start date. I also have a single line text control. And in this single line text control, what I did was make sure that the data type in it is data type integer. When you click on that, it should default to generic. So go ahead and change that to integer. I've also added a name here for the control, and the name of the control is integer add month. And it's represented by int add month, and that's in camel casing. So I'll go ahead and click save, and now that's closed. What I want to do is I want to show this off on the form somehow. So I'm going to leverage a calculated value control, and this will give us a read-only value back on the form, and we can actually write this back to the list if we needed to. So I'll double click on the calculated value control, and in here I can save the data type as generic or string, or whatever type of data type we want. We'll just leave it as generic right now. If I needed to write this back to a column, all I'd have to do is just choose the single line text column that I want to write it back to. But in this, all I want to do is just show it. So I'll click on the formula icon here, the formula builder icon in the formula tab, and we have a number of different tabs that we can leverage up top to get values. We want to leverage a runtime function, and if I click on the runtime function tab, you'll see that we've got a whole bunch of date add type of runtime functions and also date diff, and so that can give you, the difference between two date types if you want. Right now we're interested in adding months to a start date. So we're going to use date add months. So I'll double click on that and it'll populate that into the formula, but we still need to actually add in some parameters. And to take a look at the syntax of it, it'll show you right here. So it'll say add months to date add month, and then within the parentheses, we need to take a date and then comma, and then months to add. And so we already are collecting those values in the form, and so we can represent that by those values that we're taking. Now, remember we had two controls that we are taking those values in. One is the start date, and one is the integer months to add. So to get that, we would go to name controls because we're showing this at runtime. Nothing's been written back to the list. It's not an item property. It's purely at runtime right now. So the month to add is start date. And so we've inserted that by double clicking on that value, add a comma, and then we'll add in our second value, which is integer add month. And so that will be the integer value of how many months we wish to add. So I'll go ahead and click on OK, and you'll see that value represented in our formula right now. We'll click on save, and nothing's really changed on the form right now. That's because we actually have to see what this works at runtime. So Nintex Forms allows you to do that without ever publishing the form. Click on Nintex Forms tab up top, and then click on preview. And so we'll just run through this really quickly. We have our date time control here, our single line text to collect that integer value of the months to add, but you'll notice that it's blank here. We're not actually writing any value out yet for the months to add. That's because no values have been placed within the runtime function for it to execute and show us a proper value. So today is March 28th, 2019, so I'll just select today. And if our math works out correctly, then we should show the 8th month, so it's going to be August. So I'll go ahead and add 5 here, and you can see right now it is August 28th, 2019, and we're only collecting the date here, so we can strip out that time section here if needed. Now, so you can see that simply just adding the value here will change that. If we add 6, we'll see September. If we add 7, we'll see October. And that's how you can actually add dates to input values by use of runtime functions. There are a host of other runtime functions for you to leverage, so take your time, take a look at them, see which one works best for you. You'll see the syntax in the formula builder when you click on it, and if you have any questions, always revert back to our Nintex community site or go to our help documentation.